Hello, everyone. Hey, thanks for joining me today. We're almost 3 full months into this pandemic with no sign of it really letting up, despite thousands of hours that have been spent praying for this to end. Guys, we wonder, is God listening? Do our prayers matter? The Bible tells us, ask anything in my name and it shall be done for you. Oh man, Lord, we've been asking, and yet there were 1,300 families who lost a loved one yesterday. It just keeps coming. 104,000 dead just in the United States, and we keep praying. Because your word says, ask anything. We're asking, Lord. I firmly believe God can redeem any situation for his glory, but I can't believe all these precious souls that are dying are in accordance with his will. Is God just trying to get our attention? Ask anything in my name, it shall be done for you. Because when we ask in something in Jesus' name, that means Jesus would want that same outcome. So, we're putting ourselves in Jesus' shoes for that moment in time when we're praying. How many of us claim to be doing this, but yet we don't walk like Jesus walked? We're not living as Jesus lived. We're not loving our neighbors as Jesus loved. God has certain conditions that need to be met in order for these promises to be true in our lives. First off, we need to ask him into our life. That's the only prayer from a non-believer God hears every time. Lord, please save me. That prayer he answers. But if that prayer has never been spoken, we're pretty naive to think he will hear any others. Guys, in addition to this, the Bible leaves us some other clues as to why our prayers are not answered. James tells us we ask with wrong motives, that we may spend what we get on our selfish desires. Peter tells us if we dishonor our wives, it will hinder our prayers. Solomon told us in Proverbs, if we neglect the poor, God will hear our prayers. Unconfessed sin in our lives. Unconfessed, I should say, and unrepentant sins in our lives. Jesus tells us too, if we're not reconciled with our brothers or all had sisters, God won't hear our prayer. Remember the story he told of the guy at the altar? Man, he left his gift there and went and was reconciled with his brother first, and then came back, and God will listen. In the Bible, we also see God turns his back and will not listen when people worship other gods. Idolatry it's called, and idolatry is anything that takes God's place in our heart. It could even be some good things that we've elevated to the most important thing. That's the place only God was meant to occupy. So what do we do now? What is our next step? Solomon is dedicating this incredible temple he's built, and God speaks to him. This is from 2 Chronicles chapter 7. And I'm going to start in verse 13. When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among my people, if the people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open, and my ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. Man, it sounds like he wrote that last week, doesn't it? Not 950 years before Jesus. Humble ourselves, and he will lift us up. Seek his face, seek his instruction, seek his correction. And James tells us, if anyone lacks wisdom, ask God, who gives generously without fault. But when we ask, we must believe and not doubt. Ask God what we need to do to be restored, and our prayers heard. Father, forgive me is always a good first line. And like old Churchill said to that graduating class in that famous commencement address, never, never, never give up. Keep asking, keep knocking, and he will one day grant us the request that we've asked of him. Ask believing. I love you guys. Keep knocking, keep asking, keep praying that the Lord will heal our land. See you next week.